Welcome to Audiogyan with Kedar Nimkar, a podcast that documents insightful conversations with Indian designers, artists, musicians, writers, thinkers, and creatives of all types. Catch us on iTunes or visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Here's your host, Kedar Nimkar.
Today I have Rajesh Kejriwal with us on Audiogyan. Rajesh is a founder, CEO of Kyoorius Group and a global director at Saffron, a brand consultancy founded by Wally, Olins and Benbunan. Rajesh is a regular speaker at industry forums, panels, and jury sessions at various festivals and awards. He started a platform to fuel a design movement in India, Kyoorius Designyatra, hosted and curated by him. It is now India's largest design conference and has been rated as best curated annual conferences in the world since 2013. Today we are here to document Design Yatra as a case study and what has gone behind the scene in the last 12 years. So thank you, Rajesh, for giving your time, and it's a real honor to have you on Audiogyan.
Thank you so much, Kedar, and thank you so much, Audiogyan audience in advance.
Yeah. So I've come up with like few questions, and the main idea is to just document Design Yatra as a case study. It's a 12-year-old legacy and what has gone behind it. So if you can, like, I'm sure you must have answered this question 1,000 times, but just for our listeners, if you can set context, like how was Design Yatra conceived and what made you conceive it, and also like how did the name Design Yatra come about?
Okay. First of all, it's not 12 years. We've completed 14 years. This would have been our 15th year.
Oh,
So
wow.
we started in 2006. Now, how did Design Yatra get conceived? Uh, you have to understand my primary business has been specialty paper for commercial printing. And what we did as a paper merchant, we changed the game in India and quite a bit globally by targeting designers to be the specifiers of paper and not going directly after dealers or printers. So designers for me became a very key audience when we started in 2000. From 2000 to 2004, I built my network of designers, met them, became friends with them, and I understood two things. Number one, if I had to stay ahead of the game, I had to be friend, friends with them. Two, I had to be beyond a vendor. I could not just be a vendor to them. I had to be a friend. And by 2005, I also had competitors coming in who did the same thing that every boring paper merchant did. They gave away one calendar, they gave away one swatch, one designer piece, met the designers, etc. They followed my model. And I said, okay, how can I do two things? One is how can I convert my relation from being a vendor to being a friend? And how can I give back to the society, or how can I help evolve design in India? And that's when I said, "Okay, let me start something called a forum where we gather designers, get them to meet their heroes. And that's how Design Yatra came along. It was started more or less as a marketing promotion exercise, but started as a non-profit by a non-profit organization.
And what's the story behind like Design Yatra as a word then?
I think much like the word curious, where I have been very clear that there must be an element of India and there must be an element. I mean, English is the given language, common language that everybody understands, but I did want India to also be represented. So if you see curious, it's made of the word kyo and curious. You mix kyo and curious and you get curious, which phonetically still sounds curious. Similarly, I wanted to map the journey of design in India, and hence that word came across, Design Yatra, actually given to me by a great friend of mine, Sonia Manchandana from Bangalore.
Wow, interesting. And so yeah, I mean, even I curate and try and document these people, but I generally wanted to understand your perspective because you've been doing for many years. So, what according to you is the importance of these design events or gatherings or even documentation of these things, apart from like I understand there's a primary need of empowering creatives to showcase their work, and also fellow designers to get inspired, to know what's happening in the world and stuff like that. But are there any other parameters on which these events hold value?
I think the first one, Kedar, where you say showcase the work, that was relevant, I think, about till about 10 years back. So between 2006 that we started and 2010, you would see
Hmm.
a lot of designers come, and the primary out of 40 minutes of their talk or 45 minutes of their talk, 40 minutes, 35 minutes would be about showcasing all their work, etc., etc. But after the digital medium became, I mean, internet became a given thing, you don't need to go to a conference to see the work because it's all there anyway. And most of the work that I've seen before. So I think today the importance of design conferences is not about showcasing the work. It is about what happened behind the scene while doing that work. So it's more about insights, what went behind the thinking of that, how did that come across. That's one part. The other importance of design conferences or any conferences are inspirations, networking. They are the given. What we aim at Design Yatra to do differently is to give the audience a peek into the future, staying in sync with today's and future current trends and future trends, and expand your professional network. It's a good excuse to get
Hmm.
away, meet friends, make new friends, and you have to know that at the end of that, positive energy promotes creativity. So for us, it's all about how can we make it about positive energy. So great conferences motivate you to learn more, reinvent yourself, to help that 10% difference to create award-winning designs and be the best you can be.
It's so true. It's very like honest of you to be direct about it. Yes, it's a nice way to gather people around, have networking, and also get inspired. So yeah, that's like you've like directly touched the the core of it. um, and then how do you decide on like each year's theme? I mean, right from starting from like design empowers business, which was the theme in 2007, I believe, to on the contrary in 2019, so which I attended personally as well. So how are these themes thought through, or how are these themes? How do these themes emerge also?
I mean, every theme is, uh, there's a lot of research that goes behind this also, but it's not a
Oh.
rocket science. I mean, you look at current trends, you look at what's happening, you look at gaps that are there, and then you say, okay, what is it that this year the designers must embrace, and what is it that can make that conference very different from another conference? And
Hmm.
then you focus, and it also, the theme also helps you focus on the speakers, because eventually you must have a message that audience takes away from there, before the conference, during the conference, post the conference. So I think it gives you a little more broad. It helps you narrow the focus down to that year. But it
Hmm.
all
But
happens a lot more in advance than people think. I mean, this year's conference theme is already out. Not already out, but it's already been. We finalized it in December last year. So it's Find Your Voice.
correct, correct. No, but if you can just share some more insights about, you mentioned about research, right? So, how does that happen, if you can tell us? And also, is it so the first the theme is decided and then you reach out to the artist, or you have identified few set of artists and then see a pattern and then decide this year's theme, since we have these 20 artists, 20 creative people, let's keep the theme this way. So any insights there which you can share?
First, you have to finalize the theme and then look out for the artist. Otherwise, you're just trying to force fit a theme basis your speaker choice. But I think it's, and that's not curation. That is like, I mean, that's just a lazy man's way of doing a conference. Uh, I think what you need to do is first find a relevant theme that will help inspire the audience. And once you do that, then you say, okay, if this is the theme, what are the speakers that I have to get who will fit into the theme? And I'm not saying all 25 speakers will fit into the theme. There are speakers you will get who could be just a legend like David Carson. Now, David Carson cannot fit into any theme at all, but that does not mean that you don't call him. You still call him. So it's a mix. It's a mix. But first, you have to have a theme. If you're going with themes, you must first draft your theme. Then you must get speakers that fit the theme, and then you go from there.
No, but any guiding principles to define a theme? You
Not
mentioned
really.
about market research and trends, but any other axis?
I think everybody uses this word research a little too blatantly. Research in my language is just re and search, right? That's all. I think what
Hmm.
people forget is the best way to get to know something or to do something is talk to people, have conversation. And that's what we do. We meet people, we meet our audience, which are the designers in India. We keep talking to them. We keep asking them, hey, what work are you doing? What challenges are you facing? And from everything that comes through from a conversation, we try and see, okay, how can we help them this year? And then we talk to 10, 20 people globally, locally. Everyone gives ideas, and then one thing hits everybody and says, hey, this is great for this year.
Hmm. Cool. That's great. Um, so, going a bit deeper into the same question, so if you can also share what's the overall process of curating the speakers, and this is also my personal inquiry, because these days you have like really random metrics, number of Instagram followers and that sort of thing, which is very disorienting for any person to have a conversation. You become prejudiced, you have a lot of judgment and opinions formed just based on social media. And there's some really great work out there which may or may not be put up online because they are just busy working. So if you can also highlight or share like what's the overall process of curating speakers?
I think it's a lot of hard work. That's all. It's not easy, but it's not very difficult. And it's just a little bit of, it's a lot of hard work. It's a little bit of, how do I put it? Little bit of thought into what you want the audience. First and foremost, you have to understand that you have to curate speakers that the audience will love. And I'm not saying that the audience will love all 100%, but they must love at least 70% of the speakers. So always look at anything that you do at a conference from the eyes of the audience, not from the eyes of the organizers. That's the first stage. Second, if you take,
Hmm.
let me take you through the process of this thing. We have two people who work on this curation research throughout the year for all our conferences. So first we decide on a theme, right? Now a theme
Hmm.
that is very central to current times, a theme that helps motivate, inspire, and educate the audience. Please remember, it's not just about motivating or inspiring, it's also about educating. Then you make a
Hmm.
list of work or list of people across the world whose work or they themselves sync with the theme. And this could be random, right? Somebody's work or thought process or lectures could sink in 100% with the theme that you have given because they themselves have spoken about it, or it could be 10%. It does not matter. You look at all that list and you make it. Then you break it into discipline. You must have a graphic designer, you must have an illustrator, you must have an animator, you must have a product designer, you must try and get one architect, one interior designer, or stuff like that. So you break them up into disciplines. Then you break them up into geographies. Then you break them up into genders. Then you break them up into age brackets because you only can't have people above 60 or 50 or 40. You have people at the age. I mean, the youngest speaker we've ever had is a 17-year-old who got a standing ovation. So It, so you break them up into age brackets because having younger ones who have done awesome work is also very inspiring and heartening for the audience. Then you make a chart and then see whether how you have a well-rounded speaker which has diversity in gender, diversity in nature, diversity in discipline, still fits into your theme. You must have a first list and a second list and a third list. So if one speaker in the first list refuses to come or is not free during that time, you immediately go to the second one. That's all. It's quite easy when I
Wow.
talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. It totally, no, it totally clearly looks like a very, very extensive exercise. Yeah. Um, so I attended my first design yatra. I'm really unfortunate that I missed a lot of them, but yeah, never too late. So I attended last year, and it was really inspiring and wonderful. So, however, the like what I which we had a brief discussion also, like 70% of the speakers at least last year were like non-Indian. So, is there any thought behind that, looking at like international body of work, and then how do you make it much more relatable or less relatable, or even more utopian for the Indian circumstances, right? So what's going on when you wish to showcase this kind of work? Because there is some sort of, as you said, like even the audience has to feel the connect. So there are few things which are really utopian, which are done in a very different environment, for a different geography, for a different climatic conditions. So how does that translate, and how do people respond to that in the Indian context?
Actually, I think design, I think, is one of those disciplines which has no boundaries, right? And much
Hmm.
like you said, there are work that are being done for different cultures or different geographies. India also has its own culture and has its own diversity. In fact, you can't have a more better environment for being a designer than India. I mean, we grow up
Correct.
with colors, we grow up with chaos, we are solving problems on the go while we are on the train trying to get into a train is also a problem solving. I mean, everywhere that you see an Indian is trying to solve something, and design is what? Design is helping solve problems. So I think you can't get a better environment than India. One of the things I think India did lose out early on is following the West and trying to be more international than embracing local cultures into the design, which thankfully we have gotten out of. Most of us have gotten out of. But having given you just an insight on the selection of speakers, if I had 70%, 80% Indian speakers, it would be like any other local design conference that's happened. Why would somebody from Bombay travel all the way to Goa to listen to the same designers that have spoken in their city multiple times during the year? And I think when you have a diverse set of speakers from across the globe, from across gender, from across discipline, your mind opens up to various possibilities that happen. And it's not about showcasing work or any particular kind of work. It's about bold storytelling and behind the scenes insights on those. So I think what we aim to do is every designer out there is trained. Every designer out there that comes to Design Yatra has his own set of principles, his own set of knowledge, his own set of focus. That's 90%. What they need is that extra 10% to make them better, to make them the best that is there and to create award winning work or work that works. And our aim is to help that 10%, not that 90% that they already know.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. And then, like, I truly agree to like being in India and working in the design field is like, it's the most challenging thing, and also we are also living with lot of constraints. So that explores and that pushes the boundary of design. But again, design being such a broad discipline, like from interior to textile to illustrations to industrial products to lighting to you can just expand the horizon depending on your definition of design. So while curating these people, what sort of brief is given to the speakers, so that they tie into the theme and also address such a wide ranging audience as well? I mean, do you step into any guidelines as to you speak? Obviously, time
Of course, of
and
course. We are in constant touch with all the speakers during from the time that they agree to come on board till the time that they present. They share the presentation with us. We go through the presentation. We talk to them. It doesn't mean that we change the presentation, but the brief to speakers is very simple. It's not about showcasing your work. If I had to just call you all the way to Goa to showcase your work, I could have gone to your website and done a screen show at Goa. It's not about showcasing. The speaker has to be motivational, has to be inspiring, has to be educative for the audience. The audience must profit from that speaker being on stage. So, which means the speakers will share stories about their life, their personal life, their professional life. Uh, we always ask every speaker to speak about one work that did not work and why they thought it was the best work, but it did not work for the client and what lessons they learned from that. And show work that is different. They share behind the scene insights into that work. They share how they did it with collaboration, without collaboration, and they touch upon the theme. And then they have to give a few advice to the audience from their experience, some kind of do's and don'ts. So I think the discipline does not matter. That's too narrow thinking. A graphic designer can learn and can get inspired from the work of an interior designer. Sometimes a graphic designer and interior designer need to collaborate. So I think the thinking should be very, very broad based for a designer. He or she must learn from everything around them, which could be nature, which could be a designer from another discipline. However, their work focus should be expertise related, but their thinking should be very, very broad. And that's what we aim to do at Design Yatra.
yeah, yeah, true, true, true. Um, I'll just change a track a bit and dive into one question which you can briefly tell. I'm not really, it is just mean like a hygiene question which I wanted to ask. So, can you share any big challenges to organize this sort of an event? Because again, I want to do like couple of interviews as to how do you measure design, and there are different parameters to it. But in your case, are there any tangible like projected outcomes which help you either in funding or which help you in pitching these ideas to multiple sponsors or anything like that? This is just a hygiene question. I like, I understand uh, uh, yeah, the nitty gritties of it, but if you can share anything.
I think after 14, 15 years, the challenges are not that many. Having said that, I think the challenges still remain the same as the one that we had before. Uh, Unlike global conferences where a conference is profitable, 90% of a conference cost comes from delegate fee globally. I mean, when I say 90%, 90% of the projected revenue that an organizer is thinking of getting from a design conference comes from delegate fee. In India, it's the reverse. Indian event industry has always worked on 80% sponsorship, 20% ticketing, as they say. And that I think is a flawed method. In the first 4 5 years, we never even went behind a sponsor because we said this has to be self-sustainable, and hence we said how can we keep the cost minimal? How can we make sure that we constantly look at ways to ensure that every delegate who comes there can afford it? So there's a different fee for a student, there's a different fee for a professional, there's a different fee for a young blood. Last year we also went zone wise saying, hey, let us help you make it more affordable. So we made it zone wise. And we try and see if we can get to a stage where the event is self-sustainable. As a non-profit, Design Yatra is still one of our non-profit events. So we have to make sure. Unfortunately, sponsors are not that easy to get. Half the time, the sponsors want a speaker slot, and we don't allow that. If you go back
Hmm.
to our history and see, none of our sponsors have ever been speakers on stage. We work with the sponsor to say, give us a business objective, we'll help you achieve it, but you cannot buy a speaker slot at any of the Kyoorius events. And that actually, I'm sad to say, takes away 70% of your sponsors.
Correct,
Uh,
correct.
it's sad, but it happens, and most conference organizers give in. But when they give in, they are also losing uh, audience because most sponsored speakers are not great for the audience. And then the audience gets up and goes away. Then the sponsor does not come back next year because he did not get his ROI. And it's just a cycle, and I don't think that's the right way to do. I think you must try and get to a conference. The most challenging thing is to make it sustainable on ticketing.
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. That has been the challenge for India across, in fact, globally as well. But yeah,
Not
and
globally,
I have like
Kevin,
last,
not globally. It has
sorry.
not been a globally. I don't think that has been a challenge. Either a conference does well or a conference does not do well. If
Uh,
it does well because of the content and lineup. And if it does
hmm.
well, it makes profit on just ticketing.
Correct, correct. No, what I meant by globally as a challenge is because we have these Silicon Valley startups, and not in the conference space, but generally in the startup world. Uh, Most of the companies which have sustained is because of like a good business model around it, and not just riding on investors' money or sponsors' money. So that was the context. Is it's across the world, right? Do you agree or?
Yeah, more or less. I think it's
Yeah,
also
yeah.
a lot of media companies have started doing conference because doing a conference or doing an award is one way of for them to make money. And I think that is one of the drawbacks also.
Yeah, sure, sure. So Rajesh, I have like last four questions which are mainly focused towards the behind the scene, because this was mainly to understand like a larger uh, and a brief construct of Design Yatra. But the last four ones are mainly to see what is going behind the scene. And so one of the things which I found is that you don't have concurrent talks going on, which is a very common thing, at least I have seen in the current time in a lot of conferences or festivals. And this seems to be a very conscious call. So can you share your thought behind it?
I think number one, a lot of times concurrent talks are done just to please a sponsor. Again, as I said, you must never look at things from the eyes of the sponsor. You have to look at everything that you do in a conference from the eyes of the audience that is paying money to be there. That's one part.
Hmm.
That's got no relevance to your question, but I'm just saying. Second, if you're asking people to, I mean, if you look at Melt, another conference that we do, it actually has 8 parallel sessions happening at the same time throughout the day. So it's not that
Hmm.
concurrent or parallel session conferences don't work or linear conferences don't work. But if I'm getting 1,400 people to travel all the way to Goa, and if I can ensure that 75% of all my speakers will be interesting to every audience that is there, then linear conferences work better. But if I have a very diverse audience, suppose I have 300 interior designers, 300 architects, 300 graphic designers or visual communication designers, and 300 product designers or stuff like that, then maybe it would have been much more difficult. If your focus on the audience is narrow, then linear conferences work better. If you're, I mean, Melt, you have audiences. I mean, we have marketers, we have creative people from advertising, we have planners from advertising, we have digital guys, we have tech guys. Now, if I were to look at measurement as a topic at Melt, only 50 people may be interested in a very serious discussion on measurement. So, in an audience of 1,200, I cannot have a linear conference at Melt on and have a speaker talking on measurement. 1,150 people will walk away. So, I think you have to weigh what works from the perspective of the audience. And if I have, as I said, 1,300, 1,400 people traveling all the way to Goa, And if I can help ensure that 75% of the speaker will be interesting to every single person there, then I think a linear conference works better.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Fair enough. And yeah, and since I came to this last year, I was personally in awe with when you spoke about how Design Yatra is handling the carbon footprint also, because with changing times, a lot of people are conscious about how to use plastic. Now with the Corona thing, like so many people gathering in one place is going to be a challenge for coming few years as well. So there are these different challenges which are coming up, and I want to ask you especially about the carbon footprint, where so many people are coming, and then you shared your I know you don't like to speak more about it, but it's a really worth listening for the audience. That how are you handling this overall carbon footprint? And you shared a nice video of it as well. So if you can tell that to our listeners.
Well, I think it's about giving back to, like Design Yatra was started to, in some ways, partly, I'm not saying 100%, but in some partly to give back to the society of consumers that we had, which were the design community. They were our largest influencer of paper, and I had to do something for them. At the same time, it also helps serve a marketing objective for us. So bringing the two together was very good for us, and that's how Design Yatra came along. Similarly, I think everybody needs to be conscious about giving back to Mother Earth or giving back to this planet that we live on. And hence, carbon footprint is one way, one small way of making sure that we can give back in some way. I think we started this exercise almost 6 years back, 2012, 13, when nobody was even thinking about it. And I spoke to a lot of people and I said, okay, I cannot make it 100% because people have to travel to Goa, right? So that's carbon footprint. We have international speakers who are flying in. That's carbon footprint. There are people staying there for 3 days. There is the event production. There is the LED screen. All of them have carbon footprint. And I can't say, okay, I'm going to go into a jungle and do this conference. It's not going to work. So I said, what can I do to offset this? And then the lazy man's way of doing this is, hey, there's this forest in, I don't know, Brazil that can sell you carbon credits. So you
Mm-hmm.
buy carbon credits and you say, hey, we are carbon neutral. And that's like a very lazy man's way of being 100 carbon positive or carbon neutral. And I said, no, how can I do this myself? So, and you may not believe this, we bought 110 acres in Chikmagalur
Mm-hmm.
and we said, let's grow trees. Now, I can't grow trees all over the world, but if I can help the offset the carbon emission from all our conferences, not just Design Yatra, and I can grow that many trees to offset it in some part of the world, that also works. And that's what we went ahead and did. And we plant roughly about 10,000 trees every year.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. Um, yeah.
And then that's one part. And the second part, we try and ensure that we have as less carbon footprint as possible. For example, I'm just saying, we worked with Grand Hyatt. We had a guy who is a specialist in, let's say, carbon footprint, etc., green, and he worked with Grand Hyatt. So all the food waste and all the other waste from Design Yatra is actually used as manure for the trees that are at Grand Hyatt. All the plastic
Mm.
bottles that we use for water is collected and sent. We have a shredding machine in Goa, which we take during the event time. It is shredded there into granules and sent to a place in Pune, which then reuses that plastic. So single-use plastic we've completely stopped. Even the flex that we use is sent to somebody in Ahmedabad who converts them into, I don't know, raincoats or tote bags or something like that. So every
Mm.
waste is also recycled. So it's not just ki, okay, you've grown 10,000 trees this year, great, Rajesh, done, carbon footprint khatam ho gaya. It's also about ensuring whatever happens at the event is taken care of.
Yeah, true, true. Very, very
And
inspiring.
we also
Uh,
we don't go the normal way people go. Like, I've seen conferences which say we are 100% plastic free, and they keep glass bottles for people to drink water. But the flex
hmm.
that they've used outside is still plastic. So they are just removing what is being seen and not removing what is not being seen. Right? At Design Yatra also,
Hmm.
I have a dispenser and paper cups, and I have plastic bottles of water. You use either one of them. If you're complaining about plastic, please use the water cup, the paper cup and dispenser. But at a conference which has 1,300 people, if I use a glass bottle and somebody breaks it, that's far more danger than using plastic bottle which I can recycle. Second, if I give everybody a glass bottle or a aluminum bottle to keep water, then in one hand you have a plate and in one hand you have a bottle. How do you eat food? So I think it's important to see how can your experience still be great and how can you still make that conference as green as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. It takes like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just brilliant. Um, So, have you got any plans of making like Design Yatra? I understand the warmth and the vibe which happens when everything happens in person, but are there any plans? Because there's so much great content which is shared during the festival, just in the form of when speakers are saying. So Ayaz Pasrai's like brilliant talk, which I still remember, and I recently saw that most of them are online as well, but really less views. And I wish that a lot people who can't come physically there can consume that. So, are there any plans to improve or improve the visibility of this
Yes,
online as well, or it's
we
still
are
you
doing.
still want the physical?
No, I want the physical because you cannot take away. See, the things you can't do online. I mean, I cannot have people networking online. I can't have people making new friends online the way you can make it happen there. I think when you have conversation over a drink, when you have conversation sitting in the lawn, a lot of things happen that does not happen online. So a physical conference is still a must. But yes, we have plans. We are working on taking all our content online, making it accessible. At the same time, we don't want to do it in such a way that the audience that comes there feels, hey, why should I go all the way to Goa when I can get it online? So, but we are working on how can we make it available later on, or how can we have a simulcast. Simulcast is currently not possible because the technology does not allow you to do that.
Hmm, hmm,
But we are
hmm.
working on that. I think these are content that must be made accessible because they are not speakers. I don't repeat a speaker for almost 5 to 7 years. So
Wow.
we can make that content accessible also.
Sure, sure. Cool. So before we conclude, I mean, I understand there's like this interview is just a form of archiving something. It's not like going to comprehensively cover like last 15 years of work, but just like a small, quick question: what's the thought behind Goa? I mean, you tried Bombay and a couple of other places as well, Jaipur, and finally, last 6 7 years, it has been Goa, right? Or maybe more than that.
Well,
Yeah.
of the,
Any
of the
story?
15 years, including this year, 12 years has been Goa. Only 3 years have been
Wow.
experiments.
Okay, so 12 years Goa. So any story behind Goa? Is it like the overall vibe or
Is
there's
it?
some
I
other?
think I think when you have a conference, the
Hmm.
venue must be such that uh, people have things to do. So the logical choice when we started out, let me go back 14 years, 15 years, was hey, let's do it in Goa. It's a great place. People love to come to Goa. If I do a conference in Goa, it will be an added incentive for people to come. And But at the same time, the venue must not be such, for example, where a person finds so much more to do outside of the venue than at the venue, right? Which
Hmm.
means you will lose audience. Or if you have activities that can, I mean, if you have go to Las Vegas, you'll have people playing in the casinos till 4 in the morning or 7 in the morning, and they're definitely not going to get up and come to your conference at 10 o'clock
Hmm.
in the morning, right? So you have to balance this out. But Goa is a city that's naturally informal, that
Hmm.
naturally has stuff happening where people can go out, go to the beach, have a wine, have some shack food, but still be home or in the hotel rooms by latest 2 o'clock and be ready by 10:30. So I think Goa in the initial years worked very well for us. Then we said, ki, is traveling a pain? Is the cost of flight a pain? Can we move it to a city? But then if you move it to a city, you still have travel and expense for the people who are not in that city. But we said, let's
Hmm.
try it because that was 2 years in Bombay where we were trying to see if we can broad base this conference and include other things. So when we started in Bombay, we had 1 day for architects, interior product, 1 day for corporates, 2 days for a regular design yatra audience. But unfortunately, it
Hmm.
did not work because then we did get the same 1,200 people. So the audience was not the problem. But 6 o'clock, people in Bombay went back to their offices. So 500 people left the venue. People went to see their nana nanis and chacha chachis and whatnot in if they traveled from other parts of the city. So another 400 people went. Then some people were staying far away and then they had to leave immediately. The conference, any conference is great if after the talk session, the 1,200 people gather there and talk. You remember that word I said, positive energy. The
Hmm.
positive energy happens when the audience mingle and when they talk to each other and when they have that. That wasn't happening in Bombay. So when that wasn't happening in Bombay, we decided to move back to Goa. And then we did experiment 1 year with Jaipur because Jaipur as a city has also got character. From a designer perspective, it's got history, it's got culture, it's got character. And we thought maybe that's another place we could try. But the only venue available which can accommodate 1,200 people is 40 kilometers outside Jaipur. So obviously that also did not gel well because if you had it in the city, maybe it would have worked. But you had no
Correct.
venue in the city which could accommodate that many audience. So back to
Hmm.
Goa, and then you have paucity of venues in India. I don't have. There are maybe 6 places in India which can accommodate 1,200 audience, which is one in Goa, two in Bombay, and now maybe three or four in Bombay with the Dome and Geo coming up. One in
Correct.
Jaipur, uh, one or two in Delhi, one in Cochin now. So
Hmm.
there's paucity of good halls that can accommodate 1,200 people or 1,300 people or 1,400 people. So you're limited by choice there. And then within that, you have to see if people are traveling from all over the country, which is the most accessible place. I can't tell somebody in Chennai, hey, I'm doing it in Jaipur. I know you have to change flights, but do change flights and come. He won't come. It's too much of a headache. Go,
Hmm.
unfortunately, works for everybody. It's got trains, it's got buses. It's more or less central from everywhere except Delhi, but it still works.
Correct. Correct.
And
Yeah,
then people
absolutely.
can, and even people from Delhi or otherwise say, hey, it's Goa. Let's go for 2 days to this conference or 3 days conference and extend it by 2 more days, have a holiday, and come back. So I think Goa adds that charm of extra 2 days holiday in Goa.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and also great that you time it. It starts a day, like the day starts at 5 o'clock in the evening. So,
Which we
and
started
I
last
believe
year.
that yeah, last year. Yeah, yeah.
No, last year was the first
Cool. I
year we
think
started that. Again, I said,
Yes, yes, yes.
as we go back and see how can we make it cost effective for everyone. If I start at 9 o'clock because there are no morning flights and everybody can't travel at 6 o'clock flight, half the audience
Hmm.
came one day earlier, which meant one day more work day gone, one day more hotel cost. So we decided to
Correct,
change
correct.
that.
Yeah. It's a very like subtle but very very critical decision point, and that is reflecting through the overall conference as well. So I think on that note, we can conclude this. It was like really good you sharing so many details. I got to learn like more about Design Yatra in general. Any concluding thoughts with respect to future plans? Because as we say in the product space, that you have got a product market fit, now you have to just scale. So any parallel you want to say in the design conference world, that what are the future plans with Design Yatra, and
One
what
or
can we
two things.
expect this year?
Well, this year is still a. I don't know what's going to happen this year uh,
Mm-hmm.
because I do not know where and how fast will we get out of this coronavirus thing. But next year will
Correct.
definitely happen because at the max you will have a vaccine in another 8 months, 9 months, or 12 months. So next year is a given. This year is
Mm-hmm.
still it's out there. We do not know whether it will happen or not happen. I have the place booked. I have the dates finalized. I have quite a few speakers confirmed, but we are on hold at the moment. Uh,
Sure, sure.
what we are also trying to see is the Design Yatra is about 80% visual communication focused and 20% diverse. We are making it 70% visual communication and 30% diverse. But
Mm.
we've had multiple requests from many countries or audiences or speakers from those countries saying this is one of the best curated, well done conferences in the world. And why don't you do
Mm.
it elsewhere? We did toy with this idea way back in 2008 when we did a design yatra in Malaysia.
Mm.
Uh, and that was also full, thankfully. But we lost money and we didn't have and we said, no, let's focus here. Because here we had two objectives. One is evolving. I mean, if I go to London and do a design conference, I'm doing it for money. I'm not doing it for design. In India, I do it for, even if I lose a bit of money, even if I make a little bit of money, even if it's sustainable, I'm very happy because I'm doing it for my friends in India. But if I go
Mm.
abroad, I definitely do it if I'm making money. And I'm definitely not doing it if I'm losing money. Even if it is sustainable, I would say, okay, that's not bad, let's do it, but not if I'm losing money. But there is this objective of ours that we would like to have 3 or 4 design yatras in a year in different
Mm.
parts of the world. So at the moment, we are mapping that out. The second is we are thinking that we must have a national, I mean, we must have a design conference that embraces all disciplines and has an audience from every discipline, which goes back to your question about concurrent or parallel sessions. So we are thinking of another design conference to be held in a city with multiple halls and multiple discipline speakers and audience coming from different disciplines and audience going to halls that they like the best. So that we hope to kick off next year in February.
Wow, wow, really looking forward for that.
We may end up
uh,
having two design conferences in India, one which is having parallel sessions across all disciplines of design, and one which remains pure design yatra focused.
wow. Awesome, awesome. uh, Cool. So all the best for Design Yatra, and I hope this episode will be live around the end of May. So, like, if there any update depending on the coronavirus situation, I would like to just update all the listeners along with that link.
We can again,
And
I'm sure we can again come back and do that update sometime 15 days before if there is an update.
Sure, sure, yeah, definitely. Cool. And if you want to follow Rajesh on Twitter, it's at the rate Rajesh Kejriwal, and obviously designyatra.com. I know like it's not required from my side because in the design community, in the other communities, it's been there for last 15 years. So definitely people know about it. And on that note, I think we'll end this. It was really, really fun talking to you. And thanks a
By the way,
lot for giving your time.
Kedar, as a sign off, I'm also adding one point here.
Haha.
Designyatra.com was our event website. We've converted it into a design news portal. So we have content that we aggregate from across the world, across different design portals that exist like Design, for co-design, or any other design website, and we take the best news of that day and put it up on designyatra.com with a link back to the original website. So we are an aggregator of design uh, content from across the world.
Content.
So designyatra.com is that thing. We also have original content there. We also have a section where designers in India can showcase their work to all the audience in India. So go look up
Mhm.
designyatra.com also.
Yeah, yeah. I've
That's for
been
your audience.
recently following.
I'm saying for your audience there, I'm telling them go look up designyatra.com. It's going to talk to you throughout the year rather than 3 days in a year.
Absolutely. Okay, Rajesh. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time which you have given for this. So thanks a lot.
At the moment, we all have lots of time, Taylor.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. Catch us on iTunes, Savan, Stitcher, or any podcasting app you use. Do rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Stay tuned for more Gyan on Audiogyan.com. Till then, bye.